So we're looking at week 4 of level 2 English writing, and we're going to look at writing text of an appropriate level. So there's one video that I will be showing you. So again, I apologize if you can't hear the audio. It's you'll see what they write down with that. So Anna, hopefully we shouldn't be taking too long. So if you need to leave before then, I know you've just said you've got an appointment. If you need to leave before then, you're welcome to with that. Where am I? There you go. So let's make a start. So we'll just do the normal format. We'll go to the PowerPoint, we'll look at the video, and then I'll show you what the homework is at the end. No problem, Anna. That's good. So the aims and outcomes of today are you need to be aware of how text is and what the purpose of a text is and how the tone and register can be affecting it and how it can be used. Know the difference between formal and informal writing. Be aware of levels of formality. Supply supporting evidence in your writing. And then you should be able to attempt a tone, choose a tone for your writing, and then choose a register. And I will explain tone and register within this PowerPoint. So don't worry if you're not 100% sure what they mean. And then you might use specialist words in your writing as well. So what is the writing style? So at level 2, you should be able to look at different writing styles. So you'll be able to look at what sort of writing styles you need. You'll use these skills to adapt your writing. So if you've got a young audience, you might want to, if you're giving them instructions how to cook lasagna, you might want to break down the tasks into simple one-line sentences or just one instructions so that they can follow bit by bit. Get the oil, get your salt, get your garlic, that type of thing. But if you've got an audience, say for example, if you're aiming at someone like in my situation, where I'm a mother and I know how to cook, then you might want to do like a few sentences per instruction and make it more informative and put a few steps together. So you're going to adapt what sort of technique you use depending on who you're using it. So you're going to know the text purpose, you're going to understand your audience, and then you're going to adapt it depending on who it is. Then you're going to check the formality and the tone. So are you going to be formal, informal? Are you going to be sarcastic? Are you going to be fun? And so on. Now, these things.
Good morning.
Good morning, Clifford. How are you?
I'm fine.
Fantastic. So I've got Clifford as well. We've just started, Clifford, we're just talking about text in general. So writing text at an appropriate level.
Okay.
So you've not missed much, to be honest, only one slide. So when you know all of these 3 points, when you know the text purpose, you understand the audience, and then you adopt the formality and the tone. So if you're using formal, informal, sarcastic, fun, all of these 3 things together are called register. And we will go into this a bit more detail. So I'm going to show you a video, and we're just going to look at what formality is, so formal and informal writing. So again, if you can't hear it, I do apologize. Please go back and listen to it at the end of the lesson, and you'll still be able to see it though.
Okay.
All right. Sometimes I'm writing, you have to be 60 funtów. 60 funtów. Nie można takiej szkolenki do wszystkiego i ten cover wszystko zamówić można. I takie duże wszystko do połowienia technicznie wystarczyć na całym. Ja wiem też, no ale to same te dwa kory 30 i cover też 30 na 60 i też wszystko takie. To też drobinka też 60, robi 60 drobinka, a jeszcze jest takie wakcje do przyczynienia, jak się zabrudzi.
Yeah. So it just told you what formal writing is, when you're going to use it, that is more grammatically correct, and then you're going to be using the punctuations and marks in the correct places. But informal writing can sometimes be dramatic, and you might use slang or abbreviation, or you might use contraction. So rather than writing it is or do not, you might go it's and don't. So that's the gist of what they were saying. So formal or informal, so we're going to look at what makes a text formal or informal on here. So we're going to look at purpose, audience, tone, punctuation, and then language and grammar. So the purpose, what are they trying to achieve? Are they applying for a job? Do they need a formal approach? Is it an article? Could it be formal or informal? So it really depends on who your audience is, and that's how you're going to put your text across. So if you're going to be inquiring about a job application, you're not going to start, treating the other person like they're your friend or speaking to them in slang and saying, hey, yo, what's happening with my application? You'll be very formal. You say, dear sir, madam, I applied for a position on this date and I've not had any feedback. Please could you inform me of how my application is progressing? So you'll be more formal with that. So again, this leads on to your audience. So if you know the person well, you're going to be more likely to be informal. So if they're a best friend or family member. But if you don't know the person, or if they're a senior in age or position to you, then you might be more formal with them. And you've got tone. So you might be using informal writing. So it might be emotional and funny and sarcastic, or it could be more serious. Then formal writing has correct punctuation. You're not just going to add in exclamation marks or dashes or commas in just for the reason, the heck of it. But with informal writing, you tend to be a bit more dramatic. You try to get your point across. So you probably will end up putting in exclamation marks, or you'll end up stretching some words and be like, oh, this is so boring. Instead of writing S-O, you've got S-O-O-O-O-O-O. In that type of way. And then you've got your language and grammar. So informal writing is conversational. It can be slang. It can have abbreviations in it. It can have contractions in it. So contractions again are where you go it's and don't, and anything with an apostrophe put in. And then formal writing is more precise, is correct, and it's to the point. So this is a nice little section just telling you what formal is and what informal is, and what the purpose is, audience, tone, and so on are. So on here, I would ask you to tell me if this is formal or informal, but they're already answered. So number one, an email asking for a job application to be sent to you will be formal. Number two, an article for a local newsletter to persuade and encourage people to pick up litter. Now, this can be formal or informal depending on what is done. Now, if they end up putting statistics statistics and data in there, it'll be more formal. But if they're just saying, "Hey, come along, we've got a litter picking event at 10 a.m. or something," that's more informal. If you send your friend an email saying, "Come and let's hang out," that's informal. If you're complaining about poor service, that's going to be formal. If you email your boss or your manager just to get some time off, that's formal. And then if you do make a comment online, so if you're on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, that's more informal normally. We're going to look at what's the point here. Each piece of writing should have a clear purpose and style. It should help you convey what you're doing. So we're going to look at some points here, and we're going to look at the purpose, and we're going to see if they're formal or not. Now, if you've got a positive article announcing the opening of a new theme park, so this is saying, "Hey, look, we're opening a new theme park called Alton Towers /2 or something." You're actually saying that, "Come, we've got a new ride in Alton Towers now. Come and visit us." You're trying to persuade people to visit you. You put the article out so people will come and visit and go on that new ride, or will come and visit that new theme park. This is going to be more formal. If you write a letter to the council complaining that your leisure centre is closing down, then this is there. The purpose of you doing this is to complain, and you're hoping to persuade their mind, persuade them to change their mind and keep that leisure centre open. That'll be formal. If you're giving a report about any sales figures or any potential forecasts about what your sales potential might be in the future for your work that you're at, you're informing staff of some details. You're giving them, "This is what we've done and this is what we want to do." You're giving them information. This is going to be formal. But if you go to a hotel and you write a review on it, then the purpose of this is to give your own personal opinion. You're not giving the opinion of everybody that stayed there. It's all about you. This is more informal. So depending on what task you're doing, where you are, what you're complaining about, or what you're talking about, you're going to, or what your purpose is, you're going to adapt it to be formal or informal. So we've got levels of formality here. So it really depends on what sort of formality do you have. Do you have it highly formal? Do you have it partially formal? Or can it be informal in places? So we're going to look at highly formal, quite informal, and highly informal. So highly formal, you're going to use complex sentences. You're going to use specialist words. You're going to use impersonal language. It'll be serious. So, for example, if you've got a job application, or if you're writing an email of complaint, or if you're getting in touch with your boss, or if you've got a report, they're going to be full of statistics and data and very complex structures, and they're going to have all the serious and specialist words in there. When you do quiet formal, you've got similar language to what you use in highly formal, but you've got a little bit of area for, adjustment in here. You can do some cliches, you can do colloquialisms, it really depends on what the subject matter is. So you can have a little bit more fun in here. So it might be something like a newspaper or a newsletter or an announcement or a manual. So you can sort of like cut corners on this little section. Quite informal is where you're less serious about what the audience actually gets hold of or what they see. You know who your audience is. You know exactly what sort of thing they can take and what sort of tone you should be using with them. So you might have the examples of this are a newspaper or a blog or an advert or a leaflet. So you don't want to get so formal that people get bored, but you do want to pass on some information so that they know exactly what you're trying to sell or say. And then finally, you've got highly informal, so where you personally know the audience and you know that the subject matter isn't serious. So it might just be you inviting a friend out to have dinner via a text message, or you might be emailing them, or you might be sending a letter, or you might just be putting a comment down on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or so on. So remember that depending on what the formality is, it will change on the subject matter and it will change on the audience. So if you're writing a newsletter article about the rise in crime, this should be more formal than a newsletter film review. So if you're saying, oh, I watched Cruella, telling me about what that was, giving me a film review, that's going to be less formal. If you're telling me about the crime rates in your area, that should be more formal. So we've got a few scenarios here, and I'd like you to tell me which is formal and which is not formal. So an email to your new boss about time off, or an email to your long-term boss asking about her holidays. Which one is more formal?
The formal is number one.
Yes, you're right. Well done. Let's give it a little tick. Get my little marker out. And yeah, number one. So, which is more formal? A forum comment on new pop video, or a forum comment on article about council tax rises?
The second one.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. And then finally, a text describing how to cook lasagna, or a text teaching children how to cook cupcakes. So which one is more formal?
Second one.
Number two.
Number 2.
So if you're telling children, look at the main word children. So would you use formal language with children, or would you use it with other people more?
Oh, other people do. Number 1.
Yeah, because you want to be, it's number one. Because with children, you want to have a bit of fun in there. You don't want to scare them by saying use 320 grams of this or 6.
Okay.
You probably end up saying use 2 teaspoons or a pinch of salt. That type of things is what you'll end up saying for kids. But for adults, you'll give them the measurements and be more formal with that.
All right.
So just think anything to do with children in writing, you do end up being less informal. There you go. So remember, and now your tone. So this really depends on how you use your tone in your writing. So just think about your tone when you're talking. Sometimes when you're excited or you're cross or you're angry and you change your tone, or you're being impatient or you're just not bothered, your tone does change. For different audiences, you'll have a different tone. For your family members, for me, for other people, you're going to have different tones. This is the same sort of style of what you do in your tone of writing. It really depends on how you write. So, are you going to be serious or fun? So, are you going to write an article which is serious, which will be more formal in nature? It's going to be highly impersonal or complex? Or is it going to be a fun article which might break a few rules? It might have a big headline and it might have colloquial language. So if you remember yesterday, most of you here with me yesterday, when we looked at that article about those 2 actors getting married to each other, and they said, oh my, it's Sally, and whatever the other guy's name was. And they were being quite fun, and they were saying things like it's and don't, and they can't wait to be wed. So they were being more fun, weren't they? So that's what we mean for fun tone. Now, are you going to be optimistic or pessimistic? So optimistic is where you're like, yay, this is going to be great, or, fantastic. And pessimistic is when you're like, no, everything's ruined. It's the worst. Nothing worse can happen than this. I bet something else is going to, where you're being like down in the dumps. So you're going to look at your message. So if you're writing an article on global warming, are you going to do a upbeat view and say, yeah, global warming is happening, but we can fix it by this, that, and that? Or are you going to say, oh no, it's global warming's happening, everything's going to get worse, the ozone is going to get shattered, we're all going to suffer, and so on. So it really depends on what tone you want. And then sarcastic or genuine. So you've got to be quite careful in this section, because in the right circumstances, you do need to be sarcastic sometimes and, make your tone and make your point. So you can have a complaint letter which has got sarcastic speech marks. So I think it was last week we looked at some pieces of writing where they were like, this would happen, only if pigs fly. So you're likening something that you want to happen, but it's not going to happen because you know that there's no budgeting for it, or it's very highly unlikely that you'll get listened to. So, what tone are these extracts? So, look, I'm going to read this, and you tell me: are they serious? Are they fun? So, are they optimistic, or are they sarcastic? So, with the right funding, I believe the council can improve the condition of our once beautiful parks to their former glory. So, what do you think this is? Serious, fun, sarcastic, optimistic, or pessimistic?
Serious fun.
Yeah, it is serious, and it's quite optimistic as well, isn't it? So
Yeah.
there can be a couple of things. So they're saying that, yeah, they're being serious once, you know, they're putting a few nice choice words in there, but then they're hoping that something will happen if they get funding. So it can be optimistic as well. So the second one, this film, or so-called mockumentary, is one in a long line of this genre, which I have to say has been done to death. So what do you think this is? Serious, fun, sarcastic, optimistic? Because we look at the word mockumentary, so this is meant to be documentary, but they've changed the word doc into mock, like they're mocking something. So it's more sarcastic, isn't it? So like, oh, the so-called mockumentary has been done so much, I'm fed up of it. You know, so they're being sarcastic. They've made fun of, it's a documentary they've watched, but they've made fun of it. And then the last one, you'll love this new flavor milkshake. It comes in three flavors: chocoholic, nutty nut, and super straw. What do you think this one could be?
Fun.
Yeah, it is more fun, isn't it?
Because more fun.
Because you've changed some words. You got a dash in there. You got chocoholic. You got 3 exclamation marks. So and then you got a bold love over here as well. So you're just sort of like pointing out so many things that are grammatically wrong. You got a apostrophe here because you're doing a contraction with that. And then you got count them. Instead of saying them, you've got this. You've got another contraction there. Then you've got a dash, and then you've got all this nutty nut. You would never really do nutty nut in a formal thing, or super straw. So you're cutting down so many things. So yeah, it's a bit more fun and it's nice to read. So identify the register. So you're going to look at the formality and tone. So we're going to read this and then it'll tell us what it is. So hi Joe, just wondering if you're coming out later tonight, mate. We're gonna meet in the cafe on the square at 7. The table is booked at the restaurant for 8. I really hope you can make it. It's been too long. It'll be good to catch up. We can't wait to hear about your new job too. Email or text me to let me know. Hope to see you later. So from the tone of this, you can tell that it's informal, it's fun. And the way you can tell is because look at these things here. With the greeting, it's just hi Joe. So it's not using the full name, it's just going hi. Or it's not going hello dear sir, madam. Some sentences are complete on here. Then they've got lots of contractions. So they've got where on it, can't on it, it'll on it. So there'll be a few over here. And then they've got this use of to, they've stretched it out. It's slang. So they've got we're gonna. Where's that hiding? I did see it. Yeah, we're gonna. They're not done we're going to. And then they've got the unnecessary exclamation mark, which they don't need this exclamation mark here if it was formal language. So this shows you that it's fun just from the way it's presented. So this is a bit more formal, it's a bit more serious, but it's slightly optimistic and it's slightly upbeat as well. So it might be serious, but you can make it a little bit fun as well. So what is the style of this text? Well, we just talked about that. So on the banks of the beautiful Truro River, Truro is a delightful city near the southwest coast with intriguing museums, fascinating galleries, and enchanting river cruises. Visitors enjoy delicious food and wine experiences, and the city is close to gorgeous beaches too. For breathtaking panoramas of the river and beyond, stroll along the footpaths and stop at the Tressilic Gardens. The wide river is popular for fishing, boating, kayaking, and river cruises. Truro is a great place to visit. We hope to see you soon. So they use formal language, they've used correct punctuation and grammar, but they've got adjectives and an interesting language. They've got things like breathtaking that are being put into it. So they're really trying to persuade you to come along. You know, they're telling you it's a great place to visit and we hope to see you soon on here. And they've got things like fascinating, enchanting. So all of these words here are there to entice you, to make you interested in this.
Okay.
So again, you're going to be looking at your register. Now, the register is the correct mix of your aspects of your writing. So when you use the register correctly, you will be looking at the language. You'll be looking at what type of formality you have, what style you do, what vocabulary you use, and what sort of evidence you use to support it. So if it's something really formal and you're trying to give the figures at the end of a year for a company that sells cars, then you're going to want to use charts and graphs and statistics within that. But if you're just putting an email down for someone, then you're going to inviting them to say have a sleepover or to go on a holiday with you. Then you're going to be less formal. You're going to try and sell them things and say, we're going to do the beaches, we're going to have 3 nights in this hotel, and we'll go to another one. You know, so it's going to be less formal. So your register is when you look at your language, your formality, your style, your vocabulary, and what evidence you use to support your writing. So we're going to look at some points here. So the type of writing, you've got an email for a job, and the supporting evidence for this is your work history, your skills, your abilities, your qualifications on what you do now. Then you've got an email to a friend, so you can sort out when you send someone an email, you're going to support it by giving them arrangements, a time and a place and so on. You might have a complaint about bad customer service, but then you might also put down the date it happened, the time it happened, what happened, an example of it, and even the names of the people that were involved. You're going to ask your boss for a holiday, and then you're going to give him the dates or give her the dates and tell them the reasons why. It might just be a normal holiday, it might be a serious family issue. You might be putting down a comment in a forum about dog filing in a local park. So you can talk about personal experience, you can talk about other people's experience, you can talk about why people don't clean up after their dogs or what the issue is. Maybe they've not got bags available, maybe they can't see bins near them. And then you've got a newsletter article about how the house prices that are rising. So you could put down quotes and comments of the areas that are affected, which places they are, what the statistics are, and what the price increase has been over the years. So depending on what type of writing you're doing, you're going to need something to support it, so some sort of evidence. And you can do that through images and statistics, or you can do it through just putting down the details of what you're talking about and what's happening. And again, for here, if you've got a blog film review, you might just put down the title, how long it was, some quotes. Financial reports will have facts and figures. Recipes will have ingredients, hints, and so on. You've got a complaint letter, then about a traffic congestion, you'll say where it's happening, when, why, and if you've got any statistics, you'll put that down. And then, you know, if you've got a theme park opening, you can tell the dates, times, prices, what sort of offers you've got, what sort of facilities you've got, food, drink, bathroom usage, all of those things. And then specialist words. So remember, when we're looking at here, we're going to look at using specialist words. Now on here, this has already been answered, so we're just going to double highlight them for you. There. So you've got word groups here. So if you're using these word groups, then you're going to be most likely, so if you're using appalled, unacceptable, and inappropriate, you're making a complaint. So, you know, it's going to be a complaint letter somewhere. If you've got in regards to and qualifications and skills, so these groups of wording, they'll probably be for a job application. Or if you're applying for a new course and you want to get into university or something like that. So if you got excellent, recommend, disappointing, you might be doing a review, a book review, music, film, any of those. Trend, pattern, increase, decrease, as much as, these type of words will be things like you telling people figures and statistics, so a report on sales figures. And then you've got then, next, remember, always, drill, saw. So these could be an idea on how to put a piece of furniture together and a guide to make something. So if you've got a piece of furniture you bought from IKEA, you might have words like these in there. And then if I could, for the period, and appreciate. So this is you asking for a holiday, days off. You're emailing your boss or you're writing a letter to them. So, quiz now. So on here, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. So what are you going to do for these? So number one, you should use an informal style when A, you want to be persuasive, B, write an email, C, don't know which punctuation marks to use, or D, know the audience well. What do you think this is right? Which one is right?
D.
Yeah. 100% correct. It is D. So it's when you know the audience well. Let's go onto here and double check that. And yes, you're right. It's when you want to know people well, or when you know people well. So you should use a formal writing style. So for all of these points, so B, C, and D, or just for your boss, or anyone you don't know, or just for your bank manager. So when should you write a formal style? For all of them, or these different people each?
Anyone you don't know?
And we don't know yet. That's one of the people as well. But I would say for all of them, yeah, A. Yeah, because with your boss you're going to be formal. With your with people you don't know, you're going to be formal. With your bank manager, you're going to be formal. So you'll use a formal writing style for B, C, and D for all three of those. And then in writing, tone refers to. So does it refer to A, correct spelling, punctuation, and grammar? B, the layout of the text? C, the purpose of the text? And D, the way in language is used to achieve an effect. So just think about what tone is when you're talking.
I think C.
It's not C. So just think when you're talking to me, or when you're talking to your children, or when you're talking to your friends, how do you change your voice? How do you, yeah. Yes. So it's the way you use the language. If you're talking, exactly. If you're talking to a small child, you're going to use simple language, simple words. But if you're talking to your boss, who you know has experience in something, you're going to talk a bit more complex, aren't you? You're going to give them more information. So it's D. And 2 more questions after this. So number 4, you've received an email from a friend. So which response is not appropriate? So would you go, hey, sounds like a plan, I'll meet you on the others. Or great, look forward to seeing you later. Or I am delighted to inform you that I will be able to attend this evening. Or hi, that's a good plan, I'll meet you at the cafe. So which isn't?
C.
C, 100%. So you wouldn't your friends would think you'd gone a bit weird if you did that to them. But I am delighted to inform you. So yeah, C is not appropriate for your friends. And then the final question. You've received a complaint letter. So you've received a complaint from a customer. So which response is not appropriate? When you're looking at these questions, especially in it's very important to make sure is it asking you is or isn't, because first time I read this, I was like, oh, I read isn't as is. So just pay attention to those. So which isn't appropriate? A, we regret that this order, or which one did you say?
D.
Yeah, fantastic. You're right. No, D, you wouldn't go to your customer and they're already angry about something. You wouldn't get, sorry, your order's late. Our supply is always slow. We'll get it to you when we can, as soon as possible. So yeah, D is correct. Well done. So well done. So today, hopefully, you'll be able to be more aware of different texts and the purposes and how the tone and register can affect them. You'll be aware of formal and informal writing. You'll know about the different levels of formality, so from highly informal to highly informal. Then you'll be able to supply supporting evidence, so you'll be able to back up your writing. You'll be able to give dates and times and evidence for it. You should be able to try to attempt a tone choice in your writing. So depending if you're writing a letter to your friend, you can change the tone, be a bit more fun, and or sometimes you can have sarcastic things if you're complaining to them about something, or if you're writing a letter to the council, you need to be more formal. You'll use the correct register, and hopefully you'll be able to use specialist words in your writing to put across the information that you're going for. So I have some homework for this as well. Let's find where it is. Brilliant. Now I'm going to go through a couple of these points with you so that you get an idea of what we're looking for. And let's read there. So on here, what you're going to do is, what style and tone should you use for these writing tasks? So if we go down here, oh, it's not letting me go up. There you go. So if you got a thank you email for a gift you received from a relative, would you be formal or informal with them?
Informal.
Yep, I would agree with you. Put an either, but informal. Now, if you get so let's put this one here, the last one. So if you've got an article for a local newspaper asking people to join a litter picking thing, would you be formal or informal with them?
Formal.
Yes.
Formal.
I would say formal. In this case, I would say formal because it's in a local newspaper. If it was just a leaflet or something like that, I'd probably say it could be informal as well. And then if you have the third point, so this one here, an email complaining about a problem you had during a hotel stay, would you make that formal or informal?
Formal.
Yeah, I would go formal as well on that. So just all you got to do on this section is write informal or formal. Or if I or S, I'll know what you mean. Let's scroll down. Right, and this one here, you're going to complete this table and you're just going to look at what the tasks are and you can tell me what the purpose is and if it's formal or informal. So I'll give you an idea of, because when you first look at it, it can be a bit confusing thinking, what am I supposed to do? So I'm going to pick up one of these points. So, for example, an email to your boss asking for time off. So for this one, what do you think was the purpose of this here? Now I would put down, I keep forgetting that I can actually write on these. There, I would put down to convince her to give me time off for our family holiday. So the main point here is convince, is where you're trying to convince your boss to give you some time off. And for this, you would most likely have it as a formal, because you don't want to be informal and you want it to be a formal thing, okay? And then one more point to help you on this. So if you've got an email to a relative inviting them to visit you, so what is this? So you're just really seeing if the family member wants to stay with you. So you're really, in this way, you're just looking at this little sentence here, or this little section here, and you're just saying, oh, read between the lines, or what does this mean? Or so you're putting down exactly what the purpose is. So this person sent an email to their relative, and they just really want to see if that person wants to come and stay with them. And that's going to be more informal, isn't it? Because it's their family member. They're not going to say, dear sir, madam, would you like to come and stay with me for the Christmas holidays? And so on. And they're not going to try and sell them on information. So yeah, so here are some points just to give you an idea of how to complete this. Brilliant. So I'll email this to you in just a couple of minutes. And if you could please get this to me by Monday, and then I'll mark and I'll give you feedback before next week's lesson.